Commander Zexthul stood on the bridge of his massive warship, watching the blue planet spin slowly below. His four arms crossed behind his back as his yellow eyes studied the readings on the scanner. The planet looked peaceful from space, with green lands and white clouds covering most of its surface. "Sir, we have confirmed the presence of the species called humans," reported his second-in-command, a tall alien with purple skin and 3 eyes. "They have built several settlements across this world and 2 nearby planets." Zexthul smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The Vorthak Empire had been searching for new prey for months. Their last great hunt had been too easy, and the Council of Hunters grew bored with weak species that surrendered without a fight. These humans might provide better sport. "What do we know about their capabilities?" Zexthul asked. "Very limited. Sir, they use basic energy weapons and simple spacecraft. Their technology appears to be several centuries behind ours. They have no energy shields and their armor is made from primitive metals." The commander walked to the large window and looked down at the planet. Somewhere down there, humans were, living their simple lives completely unaware that death was coming from the stars. The thought filled him with excitement. "Perfect," he said. "Signal the hunting fleet. We begin tomorrow." Down on the planet Haven Prime, Dr. Lisa Park was working in her laboratory when the first explosions lit up the morning sky. She looked up from her research on plant genetics and saw bright flashes of light streaking across the blue heavens. At first she thought they were meteors, but meteors did not fly in perfect formation. "What in the world?" she whispered, stepping outside her lab. The settlement's alarm began to wail. People ran from their homes and workplaces, pointing at the sky and shouting. Lisa saw her neighbor, an elderly farmer named Bill Crawford, standing in his garden with his mouth open. "Bill, what's happening?" she called out. "I don't know, Doc. Those things up there, they ain't natural." The lights in the sky grew larger and brighter. Lisa realized with growing horror that they were spacecraft, and they were heading straight for the settlement. She had studied alien life for years, always hoping that humanity would one day meet other intelligent species. She had imagined that first contact would be peaceful, with exchanges of knowledge and friendship. The first energy blast struck the power station at the edge of town. The explosion was so bright that Lisa had to cover her eyes. When the light faded, half the station was gone, reduced to smoking metal and melted concrete. "Everyone get to the emergency shelters," shouted Mayor Pete Johnson as he ran through the streets. "This is not a drill!" But the shelters were built for natural disasters, not for alien attacks. The second blast hit the communications tower, cutting off all contact with the outside world. The third blast struck the main road, creating a massive crater that blocked the only route out of town. Captain Jake Morrison was 40 miles away when he saw the smoke rising from Haven Prime. He was piloting his cargo ship, the New Dawn, on a routine supply run between the outer settlements. His ship was old and slow, designed for carrying food and equipment, not for fighting wars. "Jenny, are you seeing this?" he asked his co-pilot, Jenny Walsh. "Yeah, Jake. That's definitely not normal. Should we investigate?" Jake hesitated. Every instinct told him to turn around and run. His ship had no weapons and minimal shields. But there were 12,000 people living in Haven Prime, including his sister and her family. Set course for the settlement. Maximum speed. "Jake, that's crazy. We don't know what we're flying into." "I know. But we can't just leave them." As the New Dawn approached Haven Prime, Jake saw the alien ships for the first time. They were unlike anything in the history books. The vessels were long and sleek, with curved hulls that seemed to absorb light. Energy weapons mounted on their sides fired down at the settlement with deadly accuracy. "My God," Jenny whispered. "They're not trying to destroy the place. They're being careful. They're targeting specific buildings." Jake realized she was right. The aliens were not conducting a random attack. They were destroying the settlement's defenses and escape routes, while leaving most of the buildings intact. This was not an invasion. This was a hunt. 300 light-years away on the ancient world of Kethmaran, an old alien called Veltar was working late in the Great Archive. His job was to maintain the oldest records in the galaxy, documents that dated back millions of years. Most people thought his work was boring, but Veltar loved discovering forgotten pieces of history. Tonight, he was organizing files about extinct species when he found something strange. Hidden deep in the database was a folder marked with symbols he did not recognize. The file was protected by security codes that were older than most civilizations. Veltar spent hours trying to break the codes. When he finally succeeded, what he found made his blood run cold. The file contained a single law written in the ancient common language. By order of the First Council of Worlds, never hunt the humans, for they are the galaxy's immune system. This law shall stand until the end of time. Below the law was a longer document, but it was damaged and mostly unreadable. Veltar could make out only a few words: awakening, guardians, and the sleeping warriors. He had never heard of humans before, but the tone of the document suggested they were extremely dangerous. The file was millions of years old, from a time when the galaxy was ruled by species that had long since disappeared. Why would they create a law about one specific species? And what did it mean by calling humans the galaxy's immune system? Veltar tried to access more files about humans, but most of the records had been deleted or corrupted over time. Only fragments remained, and they raised more questions than they answered. Back on Haven Prime, the attack was over. The alien ships had landed, and armored soldiers were moving through the settlement. Dr. Lisa Park watched from her hiding place in the basement of her lab as the creatures searched the buildings. The aliens were tall and powerful, with 4 arms and yellow eyes that glowed in the darkness. They wore advanced armor and carried energy weapons that could cut through steel. But what frightened Lisa most was how organized they were. This was not a random raid. They knew exactly what they were doing. The aliens were capturing people, not killing them. They used strange devices that fired nets of energy, wrapping humans in glowing bonds that made them unable to move. The captured humans were then loaded onto transport vehicles and taken to the alien ships. Lisa realized with growing horror that she was witnessing something that had not happened in human history. Humanity was being hunted. Captain Jake Morrison pushed his cargo ship to its limits as he flew toward Haven Prime. The old engines screamed in protest, but the new dawn kept moving forward. Through the front window, he could see the alien vessels hovering over the settlement, like metal vultures. "Jake, we're getting a signal," Jenny said, her voice tight with fear. "It's from the aliens." "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the face of Commander Zexthul. The alien's yellow eyes seemed to look right through Jake, and when he spoke, his voice was cold and emotionless. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction." Jake looked at Jenny, then back at the screen. "This is Captain Morrison of the merchant vessel New Dawn. I demand to know why you're attacking innocent civilians." Zexthul made a sound that might have been laughter. "Demand? You are in no position to demand anything, human. You are prey, Nothing more. Your species will serve the Vorthak Empire well." The transmission ended, and immediately 3 alien fighters broke off from the main group to intercept the New Dawn. Jake watched them approach on his scanner. They were fast, much faster than his cargo ship. "Jenny, get on the communications. Send out a distress signal on all channels. Tell everyone what's happening here." "Already on it." "But Jake, those fighters will be here in 2 minutes. We need to do something." Jake thought quickly. The New Dawn was not built for combat, but it was built tough. The ship had thick armor plating designed to protect cargo from asteroid impacts and solar radiation. Maybe, just maybe, they could survive long enough to get a message out. "Hold on. We're going straight through them. Are you insane?" "Probably, but it's our only chance." Jake aimed the New Dawn directly at the lead fighter and pushed the engines to maximum power. The alien pilot, apparently not expecting such a reckless move, tried to dodge at the last second. The 2 ships collided in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. The fighter exploded, but the New Dawn survived. The old cargo ship was damaged with several hull breaches and failing systems, but it was still flying. Down on Haven Prime, Dr. Lisa Park was no longer hiding in her basement. She had made her way to the settlement's medical center where wounded people were being brought in by the handful of humans who had escaped capture. "Doc, thank God you're here," said Nurse Amy Torres as Lisa entered the building. "We've got 20 people with burns from those energy weapons, and I don't know how to treat them." Lisa looked at the wounded. The alien energy weapons caused a type of burn she had never seen before. The wounds were deep but clean, as if the energy had cut through flesh like a hot knife through butter. Strangely, there was very little bleeding. "Get me a medical scanner," she said. "I need to see what these weapons are doing to human tissue." As she worked, Lisa noticed something odd. The alien weapons seemed designed to wound, not kill. Every person brought to the medical center had injuries that were serious but not fatal. It was as if the aliens wanted to capture humans alive but also wanted to test how much damage they could take. Outside, the alien soldiers continued their hunt. They moved through the settlement in organized groups, using their superior technology to track down hiding humans. Their armor made them nearly invulnerable to human weapons, and their energy nets made resistance almost impossible. But some humans were fighting back anyway. Tony Russo had been working on the settlement's main power generator when the attack began. He was a skilled engineer who had spent 20 years maintaining complex machinery. When the aliens destroyed the power station, he had grabbed his tools and headed for the maintenance tunnels beneath the settlement. Now, he was crawling through the narrow passages, trying to reach the backup communications array. If he could get it working, he might be able to call for help. The tunnels were dark and filled with the smell of smoke from the burning buildings above. Tony could hear the aliens moving overhead, their heavy footsteps echoing through the metal floors. He moved carefully, trying not to make any noise. When he reached the communications room, he found it had been damaged in the attack. Half the equipment was destroyed, and the rest was sparking with electrical fires. But Tony was good with machinery. He had fixed worse problems before. Working by the light of his small flashlight, he began to repair the communications array. He pulled out damaged components and replaced them with parts from other machines. It was slow, careful work, and every moment he expected alien soldiers to break down the door. After 2 hours, he managed to establish a weak signal to the nearest human outpost. The message he sent was short but clear. Haven Prime under attack by alien forces. They are capturing humans alive. Send help immediately. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison was learning just how advanced the alien technology really was. After destroying one fighter, he found himself being chased by the other. 2. Their weapons were incredibly accurate, and their ships could move in ways that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. "Jake, they're targeting our engines," Jenny warned. "If they take out our power core, we're dead in space." "I know, but look at their attack pattern. They're not trying to destroy us. They want to capture us, too." Jenny studied the scanner readings. "You're right. They could have blown us apart 10 times over by now. They're playing with us." The alien fighters fired again, this time hitting the New Dawn's navigation systems. The ship began to spin out of control, but Jake managed to stabilize it using the manual controls. "Jenny, prepare the escape pods." "What about you?" "Someone has to stay and keep sending the distress signal. Get in the pod and head for the mining station on Epsilon 7. Tell them what happened here." "I'm not leaving you." "That's an order." Before Jenny could argue further, one of the alien fighters fired a new type of weapon. Instead of an energy beam, it shot out a web of glowing material that wrapped around the New Dawn like a giant net. The ship's engines shut down immediately, and all the control systems went dead. "What did they do to us?" Jake asked. "I don't know, but we're not going anywhere. All our systems are offline." Through the front window, they could see an alien transport ship approaching. It was much larger than the fighters, with a docking bay that could swallow the entire New Dawn. Jake watched helplessly, mechanical arms extended from the transport, and grabbed his ship. The New Dawn was pulled into the alien vessel like a fish being reeled in by a giant angler. Inside the alien transport, Jake and Jenny found themselves in a large cargo bay filled with captured humans from Haven Prime. The people were contained in energy cages that glowed with a soft blue light. They could move around inside the cages, but they could not escape. "Captain Morrison?" called a familiar voice. Jake turned and saw Dr. Lisa Park in one of the cages nearby. "How did they capture you?" "Bad luck and alien technology," Jake replied as alien soldiers escorted him and Jenny to empty cages. "What about you?" "They hit the medical center with some kind of sleep gas. When I woke up, I was here." Jake looked around the cargo bay. There were at least 200 humans imprisoned here, all from Haven Prime. Men, women, and children of all ages. The aliens had taken entire families. "Do you know what they want with us?" he asked. Lisa shook her head. "I've been listening to them talk. I can't understand their language, but their behavior suggests this is some kind of hunting expedition. We're not prisoners of war. We're trophies." Near the front of the cargo bay, Commander Zexthul was speaking with his officers. His words were translated by the ship's computer for the benefit of the human prisoners. "Excellent work," he was saying. "This species provides much better sport than our last hunt. They resist capture more vigorously than expected, and their technology, while primitive, shows surprising creativity." One of his officers, a female with 6 arms and green skin, nodded in agreement. "Yes, sir. Several of them managed to damage our equipment before we subdued them. The one called Russo actually repaired their communication system while we were hunting him. Most impressive for such a primitive species." "Indeed. I think the Council of Hunters will be very pleased with this catch. Prepare the other ships for the next phase of the hunt. I want to capture at least 10,000 humans before we return to Vorthak space." Jake felt his blood run cold. 10,000 humans. This was just the beginning. On the ancient world of Kethamaran, Veltar had not slept for 3 days. The old archivist sat surrounded by stacks of data crystals and holographic displays, his 6 eyes red with exhaustion. Ever since finding that first file about humans, he had been searching through the oldest records in the galaxy. Most of what he found was corrupted or incomplete. The databases were millions of years old, and time had not been kind to the ancient storage systems. But piece by piece, he was beginning to understand why someone had written a law about never hunting humans. Computer, display file 7,834,291, he commanded in a tired voice. A holographic image appeared above his desk. It showed a star map of the galaxy, but it was different from any map Veltar had ever seen. Instead of the current political boundaries, this map showed the galaxy as it existed millions of years ago, when the first Council of Worlds ruled over hundreds of species. According to the file, the first council had been the most advanced civilization in galactic history. They had technology that could create stars and move planets. They had solved every problem that faced intelligent life: hunger, disease, war, even death itself. But something had destroyed them. The records did not say what, only that a great threat had emerged from beyond the galaxy. The First Council had fought this threat for thousands of years before finally defeating it, but the cost had been enormous. Most of their species had died in the war, and their great civilization had collapsed. Before disappearing, the First Council had created what they called guardian species, living beings designed to awaken and defend the galaxy if the ancient threat ever returned. These guardians had been placed throughout the galaxy and then put into a deep sleep, waiting for the day they would be needed again. Humans were one of these guardian species. Veltar found another file that made his hands shake as he read it. The document was a military report from the final days of the First Council. It described the guardian species called humans in detail: physical capabilities, average by galactic standards, but possesses unprecedented adaptability, mental capabilities, exceptional problem-solving abilities and creative thinking, combat, effectiveness, unknown as the species has not yet been awakened. Warning: under no circumstances should this species be subjected to extreme stress or threat. The awakening process could result in unpredictable enhancement of their natural abilities. The report went on to describe other guardian species, but most of those sections were corrupted. Veltar could make out references to beings that could manipulate energy with their minds, creatures that could survive in the vacuum of space, and warriors that could move faster than the eye could see. All of them had been designed as the galaxy's ultimate defense system. Meanwhile, aboard the Vorthak prison ship, the captured humans were beginning to show the first signs of change. Dr. Lisa Park was the first to notice it, probably because of her background in biology and genetics. It started with the children. Young Tim Brooks, only 8 years old, had been crying for his parents since being captured. But now he sat quietly in his energy cage, staring at the alien control panels with an intensity that made Lisa uncomfortable. "Tim, are you okay?" she asked. The boy looked at her with eyes that seemed older than his years. "Dr. Park, do you see the patterns in their technology?" "What do you mean?" "The energy cages. The way they work. It's all based on harmonic frequencies. If you could generate a counter frequency, you could probably disrupt the entire system." Lisa stared at the child. Tim had always been smart, but this was far beyond anything an 8-year-old should understand. The technology he was describing was more advanced than anything humans had ever created. "How do you know that, Tim?" The boy shrugged. "I don't know. I just look at it and I can see how it works." Similar changes were happening throughout the prison ship. Adults who had never shown any interest in technology were suddenly understanding complex alien systems. People who had been terrified were becoming calm and focused, and everyone was beginning to move differently, as if their bodies were becoming more efficient. Captain Jake Morrison noticed the change in himself as well. He had always been a decent pilot, but now he found himself understanding the alien ship's design in ways that should have been impossible. He could see how the artificial gravity worked, how the faster-than-light engines functioned, even how the weapon systems operated. "Jenny, are you feeling different?" he asked his co-pilot. Jenny Walsh was studying the energy cage that held them. "Yeah, it's like my brain is working faster. I can see solutions to problems I never could have solved before." "Same here. It's almost like something is waking up inside us." Near them, Tony Russo was having a conversation with an elderly farmer named George Miller. Both men were discussing the alien technology in terms that would have confused them just days earlier. "The power coupling system is inefficient," Tony was saying. "They're using a brute force approach when a more elegant solution would provide 3 times the energy output." George nodded. "And their navigation system relies too heavily on external sensors. A hybrid approach using internal momentum calculations would be much more reliable." Dr. Lisa Park overheard their conversation and felt a chill run down her spine. George Miller had never been educated beyond high school. He was a simple farmer who grew vegetables for the settlement. There was no way he should understand alien navigation systems. Something was happening to all of them, and Lisa suspected it was connected to their capture by the aliens. The stress of being hunted, the exposure to alien technology, the constant fear. All of it was triggering changes in human biology that should not have been possible. She began to study her fellow prisoners more carefully. The changes were subtle but consistent. People were moving with greater coordination. Their reaction times were faster. They were solving complex problems with ease, and everyone's eyes had developed a slight glow that was only visible in dim light. Back on Keth Moran, Veltar had made another disturbing discovery. He found a file that described what happened when Guardian species were awakened through stress and combat. According to the ancient records, the process was irreversible and led to rapid evolution of the entire species. The First Council had been very specific in their warnings. Under no circumstances should the Guardian species be subjected to hunting, slavery, or any form of systematic persecution. Such treatment will trigger the awakening process and result in capabilities that exceed all current projections. The file included a detailed description of what an awakened Guardian species could become. Enhanced physical capabilities, intuitive, understanding of all technology, accelerated learning and adaptation, improved tactical thinking, and potential for abilities that transcend normal biological limitations. Veltar realized with growing horror that the Vorthak Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had broken the galaxy's oldest and most important law. They were hunting a guardian species, and by doing so, they were awakening humanity's true potential. He tried to access the Vorthak communication networks to send a warning, but his clearance level was not high enough. As a simple archivist, he had no way to contact the military commanders who were conducting the hunt. Desperate, he sent messages to his friends and colleagues, hoping that someone with higher clearance would listen to him. But most of them thought he was having mental problems from working too long with ancient files. Few people took the old records seriously anymore. While Veltar struggled to spread his warning, the Vorthak hunting fleet continued their operations. They had attacked 6 more human settlements and captured over 3,000 people. Commander. Zexithul was pleased with the results and was already planning even larger operations. He did not know that every human they captured was becoming more dangerous with each passing day. The prey he thought he was hunting were transforming into something the galaxy had not seen for millions of years. In her energy cage, Dr. Lisa Park closed her eyes and tried to understand what was happening to her and her fellow humans. She could feel changes occurring at the cellular level as if dormant genetic codes were being activated. Her mind was becoming clearer and more focused. Her body felt stronger and more coordinated. When she opened her eyes, she found herself looking directly at the energy cage's control mechanism. For the first time, she could see exactly how it worked and exactly how to disable it. The awakening had begun. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the reports come in from across human space. 7 colonies attacked, over 4,000 people missing, ships destroyed or captured. It was the worst disaster in human history. "Ma'am, we're receiving another distress signal," reported Lieutenant Bob Hayes from his communication station. "This one is from the mining colony at Delta Centauri. They say alien ships are approaching their position." Kate looked at the tactical display showing human territory. Red markers indicated attacked colonies. Yellow markers showed places where distress signals had been received, and green markers represented the few remaining safe locations. There were far too many red markers and not nearly enough green ones. "How long until our nearest fleet can reach Delta Centauri?" she asked. 6 hours, ma'am. But based on the previous attacks, the aliens will be gone long before we arrive. Kate clenched her fists in frustration. The Earth Defense Force had been designed to protect human colonies from pirates and raiders, not from advanced alien civilizations. Their weapons were primitive compared to what the aliens possessed, and their ships were too slow to catch the enemy vessels. What about the rescue ships we sent to Haven Prime? They found the settlement abandoned, ma'am. No signs of human survivors, but also no bodies. The aliens definitely took prisoners. Kate studied the reports from the previous attacks. The pattern was always the same. The aliens would arrive without warning, disable the colony's defenses, capture as many humans as possible, and then disappear before help could arrive. They were conducting organized raids, not random attacks. Lieutenant Hayes, send a message to all remaining colonies. Tell them to begin immediate evacuation to the inner systems and contact the shipyards. I want every available vessel converted for military use. Yes, ma'am. Should I also send word to the other governments? Kate hesitated. Humanity was not united under a single government. Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies all had their own leaders and their own military forces. Getting them to work together had always been difficult, but the current crisis might change that. Send the reports to everyone. Tell them we need a unified response if we're going to have any chance of rescuing our people. Meanwhile, aboard the Vorthak prison ship, Tony Russo was putting his newfound abilities to use. The engineer had spent the last 2 days studying the alien technology from inside his energy cage. Now he understood how most of their systems worked, and he had a plan to escape. The key was timing. The aliens followed a strict schedule, checking on their prisoners every 4 hours. During those checks, they had to lower the energy cages to scan each human for signs of illness or injury. It was the only time when the prison bay's security was reduced. Tony had shared his plan with Captain Jake Morrison and Dr. Lisa Park. All 3 of them had noticed the changes in their abilities, and they had quietly tested their new capabilities. Without alerting the alien guards, Jake could now move with perfect coordination and react to threats faster than any normal human. Lisa could understand the alien computer systems as if she had designed them herself, and Tony could repair or modify any piece of technology just by looking at it. "Remember," Tony whispered as the alien guards approached, "we only get one chance at this. If we fail, they'll probably separate us or put us in stronger cages." The alien guard was a tall creature with purple skin and 4 arms. It carried an energy weapon that could stun a human from 50 feet away. But it was also lazy and overconfident, barely paying attention to the prisoners as it conducted its routine scan. When the guard lowered Jake's cage to scan him, the captain moved faster than the alien could react. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to grab the guard's weapon and spin around to face the other aliens in the bay. At the same time, Tony reached through his lowered cage and touched the main control panel. His new understanding of alien technology allowed him to reprogram the entire system in seconds. Every energy cage in the bay shut down simultaneously. The freed humans moved with coordination that surprised even themselves. People who had never fought in their lives were suddenly working together like a trained military unit. They disarmed the guards, secured their weapons, and took control of the prison bay in less than 2 minutes. "How did we do that?" asked Jenny Walsh, staring at the unconscious alien guards. "I don't know," Jake replied, "but we need to move fast. More guards will come soon." Dr. Lisa Park was already at the main computer terminal, her hands moving across the alien interface with impossible skill. "I'm downloading everything. Star charts, ship specifications, information about their empire. We need to learn as much as we can." Tony was working on the ship's communication system. "I'm sending a signal to Earth. If I can boost the power enough, they should receive it in about 6 hours. The signal Tony sent contained detailed information about the alien technology, including specifications for their weapons, shields, and faster-than-light engines. It was information that would normally take human scientists decades to discover, but Tony understood it all instinctively. The message also included the location of the Vorthak fleet and their planned targets for future raids. Most importantly, it contained a warning about what was happening to the captured humans. "Tell them about the changes," Lisa said, as Tony composed the message. "They need to know that we're becoming something different." Back on Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan received Tony's message just as she was meeting with the leaders of Mars and the outer colonies. The conference room fell silent as they listened to the recording. "This is impossible," said General Carl Stone, the head of Mars Defense Forces. "Humans can't just develop superhuman abilities overnight." "The evidence suggests otherwise," Kate replied. "And if this Tony Russo is right about the alien technology, we might be able to use his information to fight back." President Lisa Martinez of the outer colonies shook her head. "Even with their technology, we're outnumbered and outgunned. How can we hope to win against an empire that spans multiple star systems?" "We adapt," Kate said firmly. "It's what humans do best. And according to this message, we're adapting faster than anyone thought possible." The human leadership began planning their response. Using the information from Tony's message, their scientists and engineers started working on new weapons and ships based on alien technology. It was reverse engineering on a massive scale, but somehow their people seemed to understand the alien designs with extraordinary ease. Meanwhile, the escaped prisoners had taken control of their transport ship. Tony had figured out how to fly the vessel, while Jake organized the freed humans into an effective crew. Dr. Lisa Park worked to understand the ship's database, learning everything she could about the Vorthak Empire. According to these files, she reported, the Vorthak have been conducting great hunts for over 1,000 years. They've enslaved dozens of species across their territory. What happens to the people they capture? Asked Jenny. Different things. Some are sold as slaves. Others are used in gladiatorial games. The lucky ones are kept as pets or servants. Jake felt anger building inside him, but it was a cold, controlled anger, unlike anything he had ever experienced. His enhanced mind was already planning ways to rescue the other captured humans and strike back at their captors. How many ships does their hunting fleet have? 12 major vessels, plus about 50 smaller ships. But Jake, their main fleet has over 300 warships. We can't fight them directly. We don't have to fight them directly, Jake replied. We just have to be smarter than they are. As their stolen ship flew through space toward human territory, the freed prisoners continued to change. Their abilities grew stronger with each passing hour. They could understand alien technology as if they had built it themselves. They could move with perfect coordination and react to danger with superhuman speed. Most importantly, they were beginning to think differently. The scattered, chaotic thought patterns of normal humans were being replaced by something more focused and efficient. They were becoming strategic thinkers, capable of seeing complex problems from multiple angles and finding solutions that seemed impossible. When they finally reached human space, they would bring with them not just information about the enemy, but also the first examples of what humanity was becoming. The Vorthak Empire had wanted to hunt humans for sport. Instead, they had awakened something that had been sleeping for millions of years. And now that something was very, very angry. Commander Zexathul stood before the holographic image of High Admiral Vexkrath, the supreme leader of the Vorthak hunting fleets. The meeting was not going well. Explain to me again how a cargo ship managed to destroy one of our fighters, the High Admiral demanded, his 4 eyes glowing with anger. The human pilot used ramming tactics, sir. It was completely irrational. He sacrificed his own ship to damage ours. And then a group of prisoners escaped from Transport 7? Zexthul shifted uncomfortably. Yes, sir. Somehow they managed to overpower the guards and steal the entire ship. We're still not sure how they accomplished it. High Admiral Vexkrath was silent for a long moment. In the background, Zexthul could see other Vorthak commanders who had reported similar problems. What should have been easy hunting was becoming increasingly difficult. These humans are proving more troublesome than expected, the High Admiral finally said. But that only makes them more valuable. Double the size of your hunting fleets. I want 10,000 human prisoners within the next month. Sir, with respect, I recommend caution. The humans are adapting to our tactics faster than any species we've encountered before. Nonsense. They're primitives with basic technology. Continue the hunt. The transmission ended, leaving Zexthul staring at the empty hologram projector. He had been a military commander for over 200 years, and his instincts were telling him that something was very wrong with this hunt. But orders were orders. On the human colony of New Haven, Captain Jake Morrison was teaching a group of farmers how to fight aliens. It had been 3 weeks since his escape from the Vorthak prison ship, and every day brought reports of new attacks. Their armor can stop our normal weapons, Jake explained to the assembled colonists. But it has weak points at the joints. If you can hit them there with an energy weapon, you can disable them. Where are we supposed to get energy weapons? Asked Farmer Dan Cooper. We grow vegetables here, Captain. We don't manufacture military equipment. Jake smiled and gestured to Tony Russo, who was working on a table covered with salvaged alien technology. "That's where Tony comes in. Show them what you've built." Tony held up a weapon that looked like a modified farming tool. "I took the energy emitter from a broken alien scanner and connected it to a power cell from their communication device. It's not as powerful as their military weapons, but it can punch through their armor." The farmers stared at the improvised weapon with amazement. "How did you know how to do that?" asked Mary Johnson. "I don't really know," Tony admitted. "When I look at their technology, I just understand how it works. It's like reading a book written in a language I've always known." Dr. Lisa Park was experiencing similar changes. She had set up a medical station in New Haven and was treating people who had been exposed to alien weapons. But more importantly, she was studying the genetic changes happening to humans throughout the colonies. "The modifications are accelerating," she told Jake as they reviewed her latest findings. "People who have been in combat with the aliens are showing even greater enhancements than those who were just captured." "What kind of enhancements?" "Faster reaction times, improved coordination, enhanced problem-solving abilities. But there's something else. People are beginning to show signs of enhanced intuition. They can predict alien attack patterns before they happen." Jake nodded. He had noticed the same thing in himself. During the last Vorthak raid on New Haven, he had somehow known exactly where the enemy ships would attack, even before they appeared on the scanners. "Is it connected to stress?" he asked. "I think so. The greater the threat, the more pronounced the changes become. It's as if our bodies are adapting to survive an impossible situation." Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan was overseeing the construction of humanity's first fleet of hybrid warships. Using the technical information provided by Tony Russo and other escaped prisoners, human engineers had learned to combine human and alien technology. The results were impressive. Human ships enhanced with Vorthak energy shields could survive attacks that would have destroyed them before. Human weapons upgraded with alien power systems could damage enemy vessels. Most importantly, human pilots seemed to have an instinctive understanding of how to use the new technology. "Ma'am, we're receiving a priority message from the Titan. Shipyards," reported Lieutenant Bob Hayes. Kate accepted the transmission. The image of Chief Engineer Sandra Mills appeared on the main screen. "Admiral, we've completed the first squadron of hybrid fighters. But I have to tell you, something strange is happening with our pilots." "What do you mean?" "The test pilots are performing maneuvers that should be impossible. They're pushing the ships beyond their design limits and somehow making it work. Yesterday, Pilot Frank Davis executed a combat turn that generated 12 Gs of force. He should have been unconscious, but he reported feeling completely normal." Kate felt a chill run down her spine. The changes were spreading to people who had never even encountered the aliens directly. "Have any of these pilots been in combat with the Vorthak?" "No, ma'am, but they've all been working with the salvaged alien technology. Could that be causing it?" "Possibly. Continue the tests, but monitor the pilots carefully. And Sandra, keep this information classified for now." The transformation of humanity was happening faster than anyone had expected. In the outer colonies, farmers were becoming guerrilla fighters who could build advanced weapons from scrap metal. On the industrial worlds, factory workers were producing technology that surpassed anything in human history. Even children were showing abilities that defied explanation. 8-year-old Tim Brooks, who had escaped with Jake's group, was now helping to design new communication systems. His understanding of complex electronics was beyond that of most adult engineers. "It's all about frequency harmonics," he explained to a group of scientists who were twice his age. If you modulate the signal through 3 different dimensional phases, you can send messages that the Vorthak can't intercept. The scientists listened to the child with growing amazement. His suggestions were not only correct, they were brilliant. The communication system he described would be generations ahead of anything previously developed. But the most dramatic changes were happening among humans who continued to fight the aliens directly. A civilian resistance group led by former mechanic Pete Wright had destroyed 3 Vorthak raiding parties using nothing but improvised weapons and superior tactics. The key is to think like they think, Pete explained to his followers, but faster. They're predictable because they rely too much on their technology. We're unpredictable because we adapt. His team had learned to move through alien ships as if they owned them. They could disable Vorthak technology, turn their weapons against them, and escape before reinforcements arrived. What had started as a desperate fight for survival was becoming something much more organized and effective. Commander Zexthul was beginning to realize that his High Admiral had been wrong about these humans. In the past month, the Vorthak had lost 12 ships to human attacks. Worse, the humans were capturing alien technology and using it against them. "Sir, we've received another distress signal," his communications officer reported. "Transport 12 has been boarded by human raiders. They're requesting immediate assistance." "How many humans are we talking about?" "The raiders appear to number less than 50, sir." Zexthul stared at the tactical display. Transport 12 was a massive vessel with a crew of over 300 trained Vorthak soldiers. How could 50 humans pose a threat to such a ship? "Dispatch Fighter Squadron 7 to assist, and tell them to expect heavy resistance." But when Fighter Squadron 7 arrived at Transport 12, they found the ship floating dead in space. The human raiders had somehow disabled the entire vessel and escaped with nearly 1,000 Vorthak prisoners. The hunters were becoming the hunted, and Zexthul was beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. These humans were not the primitive prey he had expected. They were something else entirely, something that learned and adapted with frightening speed. On the bridge of his flagship, High Admiral Vexkrath was studying similar reports from across the hunting fleet. Human attacks were increasing in frequency and effectiveness. Ships that should have been invulnerable were being captured or destroyed by enemies who should not have possessed the technology to threaten them. "Perhaps we should consider ending the hunt," suggested his chief advisor. "These humans may be more dangerous than we initially believed." "Absolutely not," the High Admiral replied. "No primitive species has ever defied the Vorthak Empire. We will simply increase our forces until we have crushed all resistance." But deep in his heart, Vexkrath was beginning to fear that they were facing something beyond their understanding. The humans were not just fighting back. They were evolving, becoming something new with each battle, and that evolution was accelerating. Dr. Lisa Park stared at the genetic analysis results displayed on her computer screen. After months of studying the changes happening to humans across the colonies, she had finally found the answer. What she discovered made her hands shake as she reached for her communication device. "Jake, you need to get down to the laboratory immediately," she said. "I've found something that changes everything." Captain Jake Morrison arrived within minutes, accompanied by Tony Russo and several other members of the New Haven Resistance Cell. Lisa's laboratory had grown from a simple medical station into a sophisticated research facility, built using a combination of human equipment and reverse-engineered alien technology. "What did you find?" Jake asked. Lisa activated the holographic display, showing a 3-dimensional model of human DNA. "This is a normal human genetic sequence," she said, "and this is what we're becoming." The second DNA model appeared next. to the first. It looked similar, but there were significant differences. Entire sections of genetic code that had been dormant in normal humans were now active and producing new proteins. "My God," whispered Tony, "those genetic sequences, they're not natural, are they?" "No," Lisa confirmed. "They're artificial. Someone modified human DNA millions of years ago, adding genetic programs that would remain dormant until triggered by specific conditions." "What kind of conditions?" Jake asked. "Extreme stress, exposure to certain types of energy, and most importantly, direct threat to the survival of the species. The Vorthak attacks have triggered an awakening process that was built into our genetic code before human civilization even existed." Lisa manipulated the display to show the new proteins being produced by the activated genes. "These modifications are enhancing every aspect of human physiology. Improved neural processing, faster reflexes, enhanced strength and coordination, accelerated healing, and even the ability to interface directly with certain types of technology. That explains why we can understand alien systems so easily," Tony said. "Our brains are being rewired to process information faster and more efficiently." "It's more than that," Lisa continued. "The genetic modifications appear to be designed specifically for warfare and survival in hostile environments. We're becoming exactly what we need to be to fight the aliens." Jake studied the data with his enhanced intellect. The implications were staggering. Who could have done this? And why? "I don't know who, but I think I know why. These modifications aren't random. They're too precise, too purposeful. Someone designed humans to be guardians, protectors of something." Meanwhile, on the ancient world of Kethmaran, Veltar had finally managed to contact someone who would listen to his warnings. Professor Keth Nye was a xenobiologist who specialized in ancient species, and she had the security clearance needed to access restricted military channels. "Veltar, you're absolutely certain about these records?" she asked as they stood in the Great Archive. "As certain as I can be about anything this old," he replied. "The evidence is overwhelming. Humans are a guardian species created by the first Council of Worlds. The Vorthak hunt is triggering their awakening." Professor Keth Nye studied the ancient files with growing alarm. According to this, awakened guardians are capable of abilities that exceed our current understanding of biology and physics. The records mention something called technological symbiosis, the ability to interface directly with any form of technology and understand it instinctively. They also reference enhanced physical capabilities that approach superhuman levels, and mental abilities, enhanced intelligence, perfect tactical thinking, the ability to coordinate large groups through some form of collective consciousness. The first council designed them to be the ultimate warriors. Professor Keth Nye felt sick. "We have to warn the Vorthak Command. If they continue hunting humans, they could awaken something that will destroy the entire empire." But when they tried to contact the Vorthak military, they discovered that High Admiral Vexcrath had classified all information about the human hunt. Only his inner circle knew the details of the campaign, and none of them were willing to listen to warnings from alien scientists. Back in human space, the awakening was accelerating. The effects were most pronounced among people who had direct contact with alien technology or who had survived Vorthak attacks. But even humans who had never encountered the aliens were beginning to show enhanced abilities. On the industrial world of Forge Prime, factory worker Sam Collins was designing new weapon systems using principles he had never studied. His understanding of physics and engineering had expanded dramatically over the past few weeks, and he was now creating technology that surpassed anything in human history. "I don't understand how I know this stuff," he told his supervisor, Alan Murphy. Yesterday I was assembling basic components. Today I'm designing faster-than-light engines. Alan was experiencing similar changes. Same here. It's like someone downloaded an encyclopedia directly into my brain. But Sam, look at what we're building. These weapons are decades ahead of anything we had before the aliens arrived. The weapons they were producing were not just improved versions of human technology. They were entirely new designs that combined human creativity with alien engineering principles. Energy weapons that could penetrate any known armor, shields that could deflect attacks from multiple directions, propulsion systems that made ships faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Vorthak fleet. Similar developments were happening across human space. On Mars, engineers were building ships that could travel between star systems in days rather than weeks. On the outer colonies, farmers were developing new agricultural techniques that could feed entire planets. Children were solving mathematical problems that had puzzled scientists for decades. But the most dramatic changes were happening among the human resistance fighters. Jake Morrison's group on New Haven had grown from a small band of survivors into an organized military force capable of taking on entire Vorthak squadrons. We hit them hard and fast, Jake explained to his team as they prepared for their next mission. Tony has identified a weakness in their shield generators. If we can exploit it, we can disable their entire escort fleet. The mission was ambitious. They planned to attack a Vorthak convoy and rescue 500 human prisoners. 6 months ago, such an operation would have been suicide. Now, with their enhanced abilities and captured alien technology, it was merely dangerous. The attack began at dawn. Jake's fighters emerged from behind an asteroid field, moving with perfect coordination. Each pilot seemed to know instinctively what the others were thinking, allowing them to execute complex maneuvers without verbal communication. Tony's modifications to their weapons proved devastatingly effective. The first volley of energy beams punched through the Vorthak shields as if they were made of paper. 3 escort ships were disabled before they could return fire. But it was the boarding action that truly demonstrated how much humans had changed. Jake led a team of 20 fighters onto the main transport ship. They moved through the alien vessel like they owned it, disabling security systems, neutralizing guards, and reaching the prisoner holds in less than 10 minutes. The Vorthak crew had no idea how to respond to enemies who seemed to understand their technology better than they did. Human fighters were turning their own weapons against them, hacking their computer systems, and predicting their tactics with uncanny accuracy. "How are they doing this?" demanded the ship's captain as he watched his crew being systematically defeated by a force 1/10 their size. The answer was becoming clear to military analysts throughout the galaxy. Humans were not just adapting to alien technology, they were evolving into something designed specifically to counter it. Every battle made them stronger, smarter, and more dangerous. Dr. Lisa Park's research had revealed the truth. Humans were a weapon created by an ancient civilization to defend against exactly this type of threat. The Vorthak Empire had unknowingly triggered a defense mechanism that had been waiting millions of years to activate, and now that weapon was fully awake and very, very angry. Commander Zex Thul received the report of the convoy attack with growing dread. His forces had lost 4 ships and failed to prevent the rescue of the human prisoners. Worse, the human fighters had captured advanced Vorthak technology and several high-ranking officers. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the humans. Put it through." Jake Morrison's face appeared on the main screen. His eyes had the slight glow that was now common among awakened humans, and when he spoke, his voice carried an authority that made Zexthul's skin crawl. Commander Zexthul, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Human Defense Forces. You have exactly 24 hours to release all human prisoners and withdraw from our territory. If you refuse, we will hunt down every ship in your fleet and destroy them. The transmission ended, leaving Zexthul staring at a blank screen. The human's words were not a threat. They were a promise. And based on recent events, Zexthul was beginning to believe that they had the ability to keep that promise. The hunters had become the hunted, and their prey was no longer running. High Admiral Vexcrath paced across the bridge of his flagship, the Blood Hunter, as reports flooded in from across the Vorthak hunting territories. In the past month, his empire had lost over 40 ships to human attacks. What had begun as a simple hunting expedition had turned into a full-scale war. "Sir, we've lost contact with Sector 7, reported his tactical officer. Commander Zexthul's entire fleet has gone silent. How many ships? 15 vessels, sir, including 2 heavy cruisers. Vexcrath felt his 4 hearts racing. 15. Ships destroyed or captured by humans who supposedly had primitive technology. It was impossible, yet it kept happening. What about our reinforcements from the home territories? Admiral Korthvel's battle group is 2 days away, sir. But, sir, there's something else you need to know. The tactical officer activated the main display, showing intercepted human communications. We've been monitoring their transmissions. The humans are coordinating their attacks across multiple star systems simultaneously. They're sharing tactical information in real time and adapting their strategies faster than we can respond. Vexcrath studied the data with growing alarm. The human resistance was no longer a collection of scattered groups fighting for survival. It had become an organized military force with capabilities that rivaled the Vorthak Empire itself. Meanwhile, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of humanity's new flagship, the Defiance. The ship was a hybrid design that combined human engineering with captured Vorthak technology. But more importantly, it was crewed by awakened humans whose abilities seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. Admiral, we're receiving confirmations from all sectors, reported Captain Jake Morrison, who now served as her chief tactical officer. Operation Liberation is proceeding on schedule. Kate nodded as she watched the tactical display. Across human space, coordinated strike teams were hitting Vorthak positions simultaneously. The aliens had superior numbers, but humans had something more important. They were fighting for their survival, and that had awakened capabilities that defied explanation. Status report from the rescue teams. Tony Russo's group has liberated the prison facility at Kepler Station. They recovered 800 human captives and captured significant alien technology. Dr. Lisa Park's medical teams are treating the freed prisoners now. And our casualties? Minimal, sir. The awakened humans are proving nearly impossible for the Vorthak to counter. Our people seem to anticipate their moves before they make them. Kate had experienced this phenomenon herself. During the last battle, she had somehow known exactly when and where the enemy would attack. It was as if she could read the tactical situation at a level that transcended normal human perception. Dr. Lisa Park had been studying this ability and had concluded that the awakening process was creating a form of enhanced intuition that allowed humans to process vast amounts of information subconsciously. They were becoming natural strategists and tacticians. On the planet Vorthak Prime, the ruling council of hunters was meeting in emergency session. For the first time in their empire's 1,000-year history, they were facing an enemy that posed a genuine threat to their survival. "The humans have captured our most advanced ships," reported General Vasktar. "They're reverse engineering our technology and somehow improving upon it. Their weapons are now more powerful than ours." Council leader Yexmoth, the most senior hunter in the Empire, studied the battle reports with disbelief. How is this possible? They're primitives with no understanding of advanced science. "Sir, our scientists believe that's no longer true. Analysis of human prisoners shows significant genetic modifications that appear to be artificial in origin. Someone engineered these beings for warfare." "Engineered by whom?" "Unknown, sir. But the modifications are extremely sophisticated. The humans are developing abilities that approach the supernatural. Yexmoth had ruled the Vorthak Empire for over 3 centuries. He had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved countless species. But he had never faced anything like this. What do our military advisors recommend?" "Complete withdrawal from human space, sir. We've already lost over 100 ships, and our casualties are mounting exponentially. If we continue this campaign, we risk losing our entire hunting fleet." The council leader's pride rebelled against the idea of retreat. No species had ever forced the Vorthak to abandon a hunt. But the alternative might be the destruction of their entire civilization. Back in human space, the liberation of captured humans was revealing the full extent of their transformation. People who had been prisoners for months were returning with abilities that amazed even the awakened humans who rescued them. Jenny Walsh, who had been captured with Jake Morrison months earlier, now demonstrated reflexes and coordination that seemed to violate the laws of physics. She could move through combat situations as if time was flowing slower for her than for everyone else. "The prisoners who were held longest show the most advanced modifications," Dr. Lisa Park explained to the assembled human leadership. "Extended exposure to stress and alien technology appears to accelerate the awakening process." "What kind of abilities are we talking about?" asked President Lisa Martinez. "Enhanced physical capabilities are just the beginning. Some individuals are displaying what can only be described as technological telepathy, the ability to interface directly with any computer system or mechanical device. Others show precognitive abilities in combat situations. Tony Russo had developed some of the most dramatic abilities. He could now repair or modify any piece of technology simply by touching it. Complex alien systems that should have taken months to understand were yielding their secrets to him in minutes. "It's like the technology is talking to me," he explained to a group of engineers. "I can see how it works, how it was built, and how to make it better." Using Tony's abilities, human engineers were producing weapons and ships that surpassed Vorthak technology, energy shields that could deflect any attack, weapons that could penetrate any armor, faster-than-light drives that made human ships the fastest in the galaxy. But the most significant development was happening at the strategic level. Awakened humans were beginning to demonstrate collective intelligence, the ability to coordinate their actions across vast distances without conventional communication. Admiral Kate Sullivan experienced this during the Battle of Proxima Station. As she commanded the human fleet, she found herself aware of the tactical situation in ways that should have been impossible. She knew instinctively where every human ship was positioned, what each captain was thinking, and how to coordinate their attacks for maximum effectiveness. The result was a level of military coordination that the Vorthak could not match. Human fleets moved as single organisms, with each ship acting in perfect harmony with the others. They could execute complex maneuvers that required split-second timing across dozens of vessels. Commander Zexthol experienced this coordination firsthand when his fleet was attacked near the Epsilon Eridani system. The human forces seemed to anticipate every move his ships made. When he ordered evasive maneuvers, the humans were already firing at where his ships would be. When he attempted to retreat, human vessels were waiting in exactly the right positions to intercept him. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Unknown, sir. They appear to be sharing information faster than our sensors can detect. It's as if they're all connected somehow." The battle ended with the destruction of Zexthol's flagship and the capture of his entire fleet. The humans had achieved total victory without losing a single ship. As Zexthul sat in a human prison cell aboard the captured Vorthak vessel, he reflected on how completely the situation had reversed. Months ago, he had been the hunter pursuing primitive prey. Now he was the prisoner of beings whose capabilities seemed to grow stronger every day. Captain Jake Morrison visited him in his cell, and Zexthul was shocked by what he saw. The humans' eyes glowed with an inner light, and when he moved, it was with a grace and coordination that no natural being should possess. "Commander," Jake said, "you made a mistake when you chose to hunt humanity. You awakened something that your people can't fight." "What are you?" Zexthul asked. "We're exactly what we were designed to be," Jake replied. "Guardians, protectors. And you taught us what we were protecting against." Through the cell's window, Zexthul could see human ships moving through space with impossible precision. Vessels that combined Vorthak technology with human innovation, crewed by beings who seemed more like living weapons than ordinary people. The hunters had become the hunted, and their prey was no longer content with simply escaping. Now they were coming for the entire Vorthak Empire. In the months that followed, the new Galactic Protection Zone became a model for peaceful cooperation between species. Former Vorthak territories were rebuilt with advanced technology. Enslaved populations were freed and given the resources to rebuild their civilizations. Trade networks were established based on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. Humanity served as the guardians of this new order, but they were careful not to dominate it. Each species maintained its own government and culture. Humans provided protection and technological assistance, but they did not rule. Tony Russo established engineering academies throughout the zone, teaching alien species how to use the advanced, hybrid technology that combined human creativity with Vorthak engineering. These schools became centers of innovation that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Commander Zexthul, now a prisoner serving a life sentence for crimes against sentient beings, was forced to watch as his former empire was transformed into something better than it had ever been. The species he had hunted for sport were now living in peace and prosperity. "You have created something remarkable," he admitted to Jake Morrison during one of their conversations. "I spent my life believing that strength meant the ability to dominate others. You have shown that true strength lies in the ability to protect." Jake nodded. "That's what we were designed for. The Vorthak hunt taught us who we really are." As the first year of the new order came to an end, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood once again on the bridge of the Defiance. But now she was not looking at conquered territories. She was looking toward the unknown regions of space, where other threats might someday emerge. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, "we're receiving signals from the Outer Rim. Several species are requesting assistance with what appears to be another aggressive empire expanding into their territory." Kate smiled grimly. The Vorthak had taught humanity what they were capable of, but that was just the beginning. Throughout the galaxy, there were other predators who preyed on the weak. Other empires built on slavery and conquest. "Set course for the Outer Rim," she ordered. Let's remind the galaxy why the ancient law exists. As the human fleet moved through space, their hybrid ships gleaming with advanced technology, the old archivist Veltar updated the galactic records. The law, that had been forgotten for millions of years, was now. 6 months after the first human ship entered Vorthak space, Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Defiance as it approached the capital world of the crumbling empire. Around her flagship, a fleet of 300 human vessels moved. In perfect formation, their hybrid technology making them the most advanced ships in the galaxy. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Vorthak Prime," reported Captain Jake Morrison. "It's Council Leader Yexmoth. He's requesting terms for surrender." Kate studied the planet below, once the center of a mighty empire that had terrorized dozens of species. Vorthak Prime now lay defenseless before humanity's awakened fleet. The transformation had been swift and decisive. Put him through. The image of the ancient Vorthak leader appeared on the main screen. Yexmoth looked defeated, his once proud posture broken by months of military disasters. "Admiral Sullivan," he began, "the Vorthak Council formally requests an end to hostilities. We are prepared to discuss terms for peace." "The time for discussions ended when you chose to hunt my people," Kate replied. "But I'm willing to accept your unconditional surrender." Yexmoth's 4 eyes widened. "Unconditional? Admiral, surely you understand that we are still a powerful civilization. We control 12 star systems and have millions of citizens." "You controlled 12 star systems," Kate corrected. "As of this morning, human forces have liberated 9 of them. Your remaining territories will be occupied within the week." It was true. The human offensive had swept through Vorthak space like a cosmic hurricane. Every battle had ended in complete human victory, often with the capture of entire enemy fleets. The Vorthak military, once the terror of the galaxy, had been systematically dismantled by beings they had thought of as primitive prey. Dr. Lisa Park, now serving as the fleet's chief science officer, had documented the full extent of human transformation during the war. The genetic modifications triggered by the Vorthak attacks had produced capabilities that exceeded her wildest projections. Awakened humans could interface directly with any technology, understand complex alien systems instantly, and coordinate their actions through what appeared to be a form of collective consciousness. They had become the ultimate warriors, exactly as their ancient creators had intended. "The surrender will include the immediate release of all remaining human prisoners," Kate continued. "Your military will be disbanded, and your government will be restructured under human oversight. Former slaves of your empire will be granted independence and reparations." "And if we refuse?" Yexmoth asked. Kate's expression never changed, but everyone on the bridge could feel the cold determination radiating from her. "Then we will remove your government by force and impose these terms anyway. The only difference will be how many of your people die in the process." The Vorthak leader was silent for several moments. Around Vorthak Prime, his remaining fleet was massively outnumbered by human ships that had already proven their superiority in countless battles. "Resistance would be pointless. We accept your terms," he said finally. Meanwhile, across the former Vorthak territories, liberation was proceeding with remarkable efficiency. Tony Russo led engineering teams that were freeing enslaved populations and helping them rebuild their devastated worlds. His enhanced abilities allowed him to understand and repair alien infrastructure with ease. On the prison world of Kalardos, he worked alongside freed slaves from a dozen different species. Many of them had been captives for generations, but Now they were witnessing the collapse of the empire that had oppressed them. "How did you do it?" asked Velkani, a representative of the Altarian people who had been enslaved for over 2 centuries. "How did humans destroy the Vorthak so quickly?" Tony paused in his work, repairing the planet's communication systems. "We became what we needed to become," he said simply. "The Vorthak hunt awakened something in us that had been sleeping for millions of years. What will happen now? Will humans become the new rulers of this territory?" "No," Tony replied firmly. "We're not conquerors. We're protectors. Each species will govern itself, but we'll help ensure that nothing like the Vorthak Empire ever rises again." This philosophy was being implemented throughout the liberated territories. Rather than establishing human dominance, the awakened humans were working to create a new kind of galactic civilization based on cooperation and mutual defense. On the ancient world of Kethmaran, Veltar finally had the chance to share his research with someone who could understand its full implications. Dr. Lisa Park listened intently as the old archivist explained the history of the Guardian species. "The first Council of Worlds created humans and other Guardians as a defense mechanism," he explained. "They foresaw that aggressive species like the Vorthak would eventually threaten galactic civilization. So, this was always meant to happen? Not. Exactly. The Guardians were meant to remain dormant unless a truly existential threat emerged. The Vorthak hunt triggered the awakening because your species perceived it as a threat to human survival." Lisa studied the ancient records with her enhanced intellect. "These other Guardian species mentioned in the files, do they still exist?" "Some of them, yes, scattered throughout the galaxy, still dormant. But your awakening may trigger theirs as well. The Guardian species were designed to work together when necessary." The implications were staggering. Humanity's transformation was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, other species with similar hidden potential might soon begin their own awakenings. Back on Vorthak Prime, the formal surrender ceremony was taking place in the capital city. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood before the assembled Vorthak leadership, accepting their formal submission on behalf of humanity and the liberated peoples. "The Vorthak Empire is hereby dissolved," she announced. "This territory will be reorganized as the Galactic Protection Zone, with each world governing itself under the protection of the Guardian Alliance." Captain Jake Morrison watched the ceremony with mixed emotions. The war was over, but the responsibility it had placed on humanity was immense. They had become the guardians of an entire region of space, protectors of species that had suffered under Vorthak rule for centuries. "Jake," said Jenny Walsh, now serving as his second in command, "do you think we're ready for this responsibility?" Jake looked around at his fellow humans. Their eyes still glowed with the inner light of their awakening, and their enhanced abilities continued to grow stronger. They had evolved from ordinary people into something extraordinary in the span of less than a year. "I think we're exactly what the galaxy needs," he replied. "The question is whether we can stay true to our purpose." It was a valid concern. Throughout history, species that gained great power often became corrupt. But the awakening process seemed to have built-in safeguards against this. Awakened humans felt a deep, instinctive drive to protect rather than dominate. Dr. Lisa Park's research suggested that this protective instinct was literally coded into their enhanced genetics. The ancient creators of the Guardian species had learned from the mistakes of previous civilizations.